The first thing she noticed wasn't the warmth in my smile or the flowers I had spent an hour arranging for my son's celebration. It was the dried mud on my old work boots. Her eyes narrowed with quiet disgust, and in front of everyone standing on the sunny stone driveway, she laughed softly before saying just loudly enough for the others to hear that someone should have told the gardener to use the back entrance. My son froze. Every conversation stopped. The wind carried an uncomfortable silence across the bright afternoon, and for one painful moment, I realized she truly believed I was nothing more than an old laborer who didn't belong with the guests. What happened only a few hours later would change her life, my son's future, and everyone's understanding of what true wealth really means. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances make this world better, please take a moment to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind us what really matters. At 64 years old, Alistair Rowan had learned that appearances were often the most expensive lies people believed. His hands were rough from decades of honest work, his shoulders slightly bent from years of lifting lumber, repairing fences, and planting orchards, and his favorite boots always carried traces of the land he loved. Those boots had walked thousands of acres through every season, from spring blossoms to autumn harvests. They had stood beside grieving families, celebrated weddings beneath ancient oak trees, and carried him through storms that had nearly destroyed everything he had spent his life building. He could have replaced them 100 times over, but he never did. To him, they were reminders that success should never erase the memory of struggle. Most people in the county knew the Rowan estate only through magazine photographs. They admired the vineyard stretching over rolling hills, the restored historic manor surrounded by colorful gardens, the luxury guest lodges, the award-winning winery, the artisan bakery, and the weekend markets that attracted visitors from across the state. Very few knew that Alistair still arrived before sunrise every morning, not because he had to, but because walking the land reminded him why he had started with nothing but determination. His son, Everett, had grown up watching those sacrifices. As a boy, he helped stack lumber, cleaned equipment, picked fruit during school holidays, and served visitors with genuine warmth. Alistair had never wanted his son to inherit entitlement. He wanted him to inherit responsibility. When Everett left for university, he promised he would make his own path before joining the family business, and Alistair respected that choice completely. Years later, Everett returned with someone he loved deeply. Her name was Celeste Mercer. She was intelligent, polished, ambitious, and came from a wealthy family that valued appearances almost as much as achievement. She dressed perfectly, spoke carefully, and had a confidence that often crossed into quiet arrogance without her realizing it. Everett believed she simply needed time to know his father, but circumstances kept delaying meaningful introductions. When Everett finally announced an engagement celebration at the Rowan estate, Alistair spent the entire morning helping prepare the property himself. Bright sunshine filled the valley as gardeners trimmed hedges, chefs prepared fresh food, musicians tested their instruments, and workers arranged elegant tables overlooking endless rows of vineyards. Alistair insisted on helping unload flowers from a delivery truck after one vehicle became delayed. While carrying heavy boxes across damp ground near the gardens, his boots collected patches of rich brown mud. He laughed about it with the workers, saying that land was never ashamed of dirt. None of them imagined those muddy boots would become the center of the day's greatest lesson. Guests began arriving shortly before noon. Luxury cars lined the entrance, conversations filled the warm air, and laughter echoed across the courtyard. Alistair remained near the gardens, making sure every employee felt appreciated before joining the reception. He believed no celebration was successful unless everyone, from executives to cleaners, felt respected. That was when Celeste stepped out of a shining white sedan alongside several friends from the city. She looked directly toward Alistair, who was carrying another basket of flowers. Without asking who he was, she assumed he worked maintenance. Her expression changed immediately. She smiled politely at first, then glanced at his muddy boots and wrinkled clothes before making the comment that cut far deeper than she ever intended. She remarked that expensive events should keep workers out of guest areas because they ruined the atmosphere. A few nearby guests exchanged uncomfortable looks. Someone nervously laughed. Everett's face lost all color. Alastair simply nodded with quiet dignity. He thanked her for sharing her opinion, gently placed the flowers beside the entrance, and continued walking without defending himself. The workers who knew the truth looked toward Everett, waiting to see what would happen. Everett hurried after his father, filled with embarrassment, but Alastair stopped him with a reassuring hand on his shoulder. He didn't want his son beginning an important day with anger. Instead, he quietly returned to helping the staff. For another hour, Celeste continued greeting guests, completely unaware that many of them were secretly watching her with growing concern. Several longtime employees whispered among themselves, not because they enjoyed gossip, but because they loved Alastair like family. They had seen him personally pay medical bills for struggling workers, fund scholarships for local students, rebuild homes after storms, and anonymously donate millions to hospitals and community projects. They couldn't understand how someone could judge him so quickly. Eventually, the celebration moved toward the manor's grand terrace for the official welcome. The event coordinator stepped forward beneath the bright afternoon sky and invited everyone to gather. Then came the unexpected announcement. The coordinator thanked everyone for attending before introducing the founder whose vision had transformed abandoned farmland into one of the region's most respected businesses, employing hundreds of families and supporting countless charities. With a warm smile, she invited Mr. Alastair Rowan to officially welcome the guests. Every head turned. Celeste's smile disappeared instantly. She watched the same man she had mistaken for a gardener slowly walk onto the stage while hundreds of guests stood and applauded with genuine affection. Executives rose to shake his hand. Community leaders embraced him. Employees smiled with tears in their eyes. Even children ran toward him happily because they recognized the gentle man who always remembered their birthdays. The realization struck Celeste harder than any public humiliation ever could. She hadn't insulted an employee. She had humiliated the man whose generosity had made the entire celebration possible. But what shattered her confidence even more was watching Alastair refuse to embarrass her in return. He never mentioned the incident. Instead, he spoke about gratitude. He thanked every cook, cleaner, gardener, mechanic, office assistant, vineyard worker, carpenter, and volunteer who had helped create the estate over the years. He reminded everyone that success never belonged to one person. It belonged to every pair of hands willing to work with honesty and compassion. As he spoke, many guests quietly reflected on their own assumptions. After the applause faded, Celeste remained frozen near the back of the crowd. She wanted to disappear. Throughout the afternoon she watched something she had never truly experienced before. Alastair greeted every employee by name. He asked about their children. He congratulated apprentices on promotions. He carried chairs for elderly visitors despite several staff members offering to help. He thanked dishwashers personally before thanking investors. None of it felt performed. It was simply who he was. For the first time in many years, Celeste questioned the values she had spent her life believing. She had always associated expensive clothing, polished appearances, and luxury with importance. Yet the wealthiest man present was also the humblest. Late that afternoon, while guests explored the gardens beneath warm golden sunlight, she found Alastair sitting quietly beneath a large maple tree overlooking the vineyards. He wasn't reviewing financial reports. He wasn't entertaining influential investors. He was helping a little girl repair a broken toy windmill using a pocketknife and a small piece of wood. After the child ran back to her parents smiling, Celeste slowly approached. Her shoulders trembled with genuine regret. She admitted that she had judged him within seconds because of his appearance. She confessed that she had been taught all her life to measure success by visible status. She admitted that, standing there now, she had never felt poorer. Alastair listened patiently. He didn't interrupt. He didn't criticize. When she finished, he looked across the vineyard stretching beneath the afternoon sun. He explained that every tree around them had once looked like a fragile stick in the ground. Anyone passing by could have laughed and called it worthless. But time, patience, and care revealed what appearances could never predict. He told her people were exactly the same. Character always grew beneath the surface before anyone noticed the fruit. Money could buy beautiful shoes. It could never buy a beautiful heart. Those simple words stayed with Celeste far longer than any lecture could have. She began spending the rest of the afternoon differently. Instead of speaking only with wealthy guests, she joined employees serving meals. She carried dishes, thanked volunteers, helped elderly visitors find seats, and apologized privately to the workers who had witnessed her earlier behavior. None of them rejected her. Most simply smiled because they recognized sincere change when they saw it. Everett watched everything quietly. For the first time since the painful moment at the entrance, hope returned to his heart. Several weeks passed. Most people expected life to continue as usual. Instead, remarkable changes followed. Celeste asked to spend weekends learning every part of the Rowan businesses from the ground up. She worked in the bakery before sunrise, covered in flour instead of designer perfume. She harvested grapes beneath the afternoon sun. She cleaned guest rooms alongside housekeeping teams. She stocked shelves, greeted customers, packed produce, and listened to longtime employees share stories about Alastair's decades of quiet generosity. Every lesson humbled her further. Months later, when severe flooding damaged several nearby communities, she volunteered beside Alastair without cameras or publicity. She filled sandbags until her hands blistered, delivered food supplies, and comforted frightened families who had lost nearly everything. One elderly woman hugged her tightly after receiving emergency supplies. That embrace meant more to Celeste than every luxury purchase she had ever made. She finally understood the difference between admiration and respect. One came from appearances. The other came from service. As another bright afternoon arrived nearly a year after that unforgettable celebration, the Rowan estate hosted a community appreciation festival. Families gathered across the sunny grounds. Children laughed through orchards. Local musicians performed beneath open skies. Workers celebrated another successful harvest. Near the entrance stood a display featuring dozens of worn work boots donated by employees, each representing years of honest labor. Among them rested Alastair's old muddy boots. Not polished. Not replaced. Exactly as they had been. Beside them sat a small handwritten sign. It read that these boots had built dreams because they were never afraid of dirt. Visitors stopped to read it all day. Many smiled. Some cried. Celeste stood nearby helping welcome every guest personally. Whenever someone wearing dusty work clothes arrived, she greeted them with the same warmth she offered executives and business owners. She had learned the lesson that changed her life forever. The richest person in any room is rarely the one wearing the most expensive clothes. It is the one whose kindness leaves everyone else feeling more valuable. Before this story comes to its final moments, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing a time when someone looked beyond appearances and saw your true worth, or when you learned never to judge another person by what you first saw. As the afternoon sun slowly settled over the endless vineyards, Alastair watched his family laugh together, employees celebrate as equals, and visitors leave carrying more than memories. They left carrying a reminder that dignity is earned through character, not clothing, and that the strongest foundations are built with humility, compassion, and forgiveness. He realized that the painful moment created by a pair of muddy boots had become one of the greatest blessings his family could have received because it revealed hearts honestly, gave pride the chance to become humility, and allowed forgiveness to grow where embarrassment once lived. The estate would continue to prosper for generations, not because of its land or wealth, but because its greatest inheritance had never been money. It had always been the belief that every person deserves respect before they earn admiration, kindness before they prove themselves, and a second chance when they genuinely choose to change. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that the clothes people wear, the cars they drive, or the mud on their boots can never reveal the true value of a human heart. Sometimes the greatest treasures in this world are hidden behind the humblest appearances, waiting for someone wise enough to look beyond the surface.